Good morning, good morning. I'm back. Today's episode, we're in London. Now, talking about London, you know what they say about the Romans. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Now, in London, you take a bloody pint. That's what you do in London. Cheers. Huh? Wonderful city, London, beautiful city. That's where we are today. Peter is now living in London, and his whole life has changed. And in the movie you will see why his whole life has changed. And he's now living in exile again, like in Rio when the story started, living in London, and are not known anywhere in the world. He has been wiped off the face of the earth, to say. And this is a nice scene. This is one of the important scenes in the movie. He's sitting on a bench in London and staring at Big Ben. And that's a turning moment in the movie. Okay, we're going to move on to a bit of a history of the time. Very interesting, you know, we're still with certain characters in the old Pilgrim's Rest time when the gold was discovered there. And today's two people we're looking at is the legend, the story about Robber's Grave and Cockney Liz. Now, Robber's Grave, there's a robber's pass in the area. So the story about the robber is a big story in Pilgrim's Rest. And I'm going to read for you from that time about a guy what happened with the whole Robber's Grave thing. For many years it was thought that Robber's Grave was the grave of an unknown man who had been caught stealing from a tent at the diggings camp. He was banished as a result but was seen on nearby Cemetery Hill a few days later and was shot. He was buried lying north to the south, thus condemning him as a thief forever. This is in fact not true, and more accurate information has been brought to light by a certain person. And what actually happened was the following. Roy Spencer, who was engaged to Elizabeth Jane Webster, also known as Cockney Liz, had come out from England after a dispute with his father to earn his fortune. Roy, together with his friend and partner Walter Scott, were at the diggings when Walter, whilst under the influence of the demon liquor, whatever that was, accused Roy of stealing his gold and shot him. When he went back to his tent, he was horrified to find his gold in a purse that had fallen out of his pocket. In drunken remorse, he sought solace at the Methodist church and, failing to soothe his conscience, took his own life. Roy was mistakenly buried as a robber, and Walter lies next to him in an unmarked grave. Interesting story, huh? That's the history of the time. Now to the South African personality in this episode, and I'm referring to J.R.R. Tolkien, important writer, the guy who wrote The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, well-known international writer. He was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa, in 1892. And he was 3 years old when he went back to England, when his father and mother went back to England, and obviously he with them. So he was born in South Africa, but actually spent the rest of his life in England. He said one important thing, which were quite something to think about. He said, love of myths and his faith came together in his assertion that he believed mythology to be the divine echo of the truth. We had the one-liner for the day. It is difficult to see the writing against the wall when you stand with your back against it. Think about it. Till next week. See you. Bye.